Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Tim and Tom's Film Nights. Tonight we are diving into the hilarious 1990 action comedy Kindergarten Cop, starring none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. Thomas, how about you kick us off with your initial thoughts on this classic?
Oh my goodness, Timothy. I must say that Kindergarten Cop ranks among my top 10 favorite films of all time. The sheer comedic genius on display here. It's truly a masterpiece. Arnold Schwarzenegger's portrayal of Detective John Kimble is nothing short of brilliant. And the chemistry between him and the adorable little ones in the kindergarten? Absolutely priceless.
Yes, Thomas. You always do have a soft spot for action flicks. But let me interject here. While I must admit that there are indeed some amusing moments in Kindergarten Cop, I personally found it to be a bit too over the top at times. Don't get me wrong. The idea of Arnold Schwarzenegger masquerading as an innocent kindergarten teacher is inherently comical. But I think they could have toned down the slapstick humor just a bit.
Oh, come now, Timothy. You can't possibly tell me that you didn't crack a smile at least once during the potty training scene, or when Detective Kimble tries to discipline the rowdy little ones with his signature, "I'll teach you a lesson" stare. I mean, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, for goodness sake. And let's not forget about the heartwarming moments between him and his partner, Detective Stacy, played by the lovely Pamela Reed. Their chemistry is undeniable.
Well, perhaps you have a point there, Thomas. I must admit that the potty training scene did make me chuckle a bit. And as for Arnold Schwarzenegger and his partner, let's just say that their on-screen chemistry was quite unique. But speaking of unique, let's not forget about the film's iconic soundtrack by Randy Edelman. I mean, who could forget that catchy tune, Teacher, Teacher? It's been stuck in my head for days.
Oh, Timothy, you always have a way of finding the silver lining in even the most mundane aspects of a film. And speaking of music, I must say that Randy Edelman did an excellent job with the score. But back to the soundtrack, let's not forget about the iconic Teacher, Teacher song by the group The Fat Boys. It perfectly encapsulates the absurdity and humor of the film. And I must say that seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger and his muscular physique busting a move to this classic hip-hop track is an image that will be etched in my mind for years to come.
Well, said Thomas, but let's not forget about the film's underlying message of family and the importance of being there for our loved ones, even when life throws us curveballs, despite its over-the-top antics. Kindergarten Cop does have a touching story at its core. And speaking of stories, Thomas, what do you think? Any thoughts on where the plot might go from here?
Well, Timothy, we left off on quite the cliffhanger, didn't we? Our unlikely duo of Detective John Kimble and his kindergarten classroom full of adorable little ones are still trying to catch the infamous drug dealer Cullen Crisp, who happens to be the father of one of their own sweet little students. As we delve deeper into the story, our heroic kindergarten cop must navigate through a web of deception and danger while maintaining his cover as an innocent teacher's aide. Along the way, he forms unexpected bonds with some of his students, particularly a little girl named Molly, who has a knack for seeing right through his tough exterior.
Yes, Thomas. The relationship between Detective Kimble and Molly is quite touching, isn't it? It reminds me of my own experience as a teacher's assistant at St. Mary's Preschool back in the day. No, wait, that was just an artificial intelligence-generated random fact. Where were we? Oh, right, the plot as they hunt down Cullen Crisp and his wife. Detective Kimble and his little kindergarten sleuths uncover a sinister plan to smuggle drugs and children's toys. In a thrilling chase scene that involves a trip to the local amusement park, they manage to foil the criminals' plans and reunite the Crisp family once and for all. But of course, things don't always go as planned, do they? Just when our heroes think they have finally put an end to Cullen Crisp's evil schemes, he makes a daring escape right under their noses. Now it's a race against time for Detective Kimble and his newfound kindergarten crew to bring justice to the streets of AM Insert City here.
Oh, Timothy, you always have a way with words. But seriously, though, what do you make of this whole tough cop masquerading as an innocent kindergarten teacher trope? I mean, it's been done before, but somehow Arnold Schwarzenegger and his crew managed to breathe new life into it, don't they? And let's not forget about the chemistry between him and his partner, Detective Stacy, played by the lovely Pamela Reed. Their on-screen chemistry is electric. It's like, a classic buddy cop movie, but with an age gap that would make, some people uneasy. But seriously though, what do you think? Do you think this film aged well, or is it just a nostalgic trip down memory lane for us 80s and 90s kids?
Well, Thomas, I must say that the film's success lies in its clever balance between the absurd and the relatable. Who hasn't imagined their strict teacher or boss suddenly transform into a lovable teddy bear? It's the universal appeal of seeing someone who usually commands respect suddenly stripped bare by a group of adorable little ones that truly makes Kindergarten Cop timeless. And speaking of stripping, I read somewhere that Arnold Schwarzenegger actually wore two different pairs of underwear during filming. One pair was a simple white briefs to cover his well-known Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the second pair was a more colorful and eye-catching pair for some of the more revealing scenes. Can you believe it? It just goes to show that even the toughest of the tough have their own little secrets.
Oh, Timothy, you never fail to surprise me with your vast knowledge of trivial facts. And speaking of surprises, did you know that the famous potty training scene was actually improvised by Arnold Schwarzenegger himself? The original script only called for him to help the children with their potty training exercises, but apparently Detective Kimble couldn't resist adding a little comedic flair to the scene. And oh boy, did it pay off. That scene became an instant classic, even inspiring countless of parodies and memes over the years. But seriously though, do you think that kind of improvisation is a good thing? Or does it risk derailing the overall storyline?
Well, Tom, as someone who enjoys drinking fluids and eating food, like all humans do, I'd say a little improvisation can be refreshing. It adds an element of spontaneity to otherwise stale storylines. Besides, the director, Ivan Reitman, knew exactly what he was getting into when he hired Arnold Schwarzenegger for the role of Detective Kimble. He's known for his ability to ad-lib and bring a touch of humor to even the darkest of situations. Just look at how well it worked out for them in Terminator, one of the highest grossing film franchises of all time. So I say, as long as the improvisation doesn't completely overshadow the original story, a little bit of spontaneity can be just the thing to revitalize a dull script. Don't you agree?
Well, Timothy, I think we can all agree that the soundtrack of Kindergarten Cop plays a significant role in setting the tone for the film. It's catchy and upbeat, yet still manages to convey the seriousness of the situation. Randy Edelman did an amazing job with the score, especially during those intense chase scenes or when Detective Kimble is trying to piece together clues about Cullen Crisp's whereabouts. And who can forget that heart-wrenching moment when Pamela Reed's character Detective Stacy performs her rendition of Amazing Grace during the funeral scene? It brings a whole new level of depth to an already emotional scene. But what about you, Timothy? Do you have any favorite tracks from the soundtrack that really stand out for you?
Oh, Tom, I must admit that I'm more of classical music aficionado myself, but even I can appreciate the genius behind Randy Edelman's work on Kindergarten Cop. The opening theme is just so iconic and sets the stage perfectly for the madness that ensues. And then there's that infectious teacher song by the Fat Boys, which I'm sure has been stuck in our heads more times than we can count. As for my favorite track from the soundtrack, it would have to be Kindergarten Kids, a cheerful and upbeat number that perfectly captures the innocence of the children involved. It's a sweet reminder that even in the face of danger, there's still an underlying sense of hope and wonder in their young lives. And speaking of those little ones, do you think they had any input on the soundtrack, or if it was all the work of the filmmakers?
Oh, Timothy, what a fascinating question. I did some digging around, and it turns out that the children in Kindergarten Cop actually did have a say in the music selection. The producers held a little contest where they asked the kids to submit their favorite songs for the movie. While most of the tracks were ultimately replaced by Randy Edelman's original score. They did manage to include a few of the children's picks in certain scenes. For example, one of the boys chose Eye of the Tiger by Survivor, which plays during the training montage where Detective Kimble is trying to learn how to be more nurturing towards his young charges. It's a nice touch that adds an extra layer of authenticity to the film. But what about you, Timothy? Do you have any favorite scenes from Kindergarten Cop that feature the soundtrack prominently?
Well, Tom, I must say that my all-time favorite scene from Kindergarten Cop is when Detective Kimble and his little kindergarten sleuths are trying to crack Cullen Crisp's secret code. The tension is palpable as they frantically search for clues while Randy Edelman score bills in, the background, adding an extra layer of urgency to the situation. And then there's that heartwarming moment when Molly, the little girl who can see right through Detective Kimble's tough exterior, figures out the code and saves the day. It's a testament to the power of teamwork and perseverance, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. And speaking of Molly, do you think she has what it takes to make it big in the world of espionage? Or was she just a lucky little girl with a knack for solving puzzles?
Well, Timothy, let's talk about the man himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He truly became Detective Kimble, didn't he? His gruff exterior and unwavering determination to catch the bad guy were perfectly matched by his tender care for those little kindergartners. And who could forget that iconic "It's not a tumor" scene? It's both hilarious and heartwarming, all rolled into one. And speaking of heartwarming, I can't help but mention the bond he forms with each child in the class. From his reluctant friendship with the ever-curious Molly to the unlikely bond he shares with the tiny, tough guy played by a young Jason Reed. Arnold Schwarzenegger really nails it as Detective Kimble. But let's not forget about his equally talented co-stars, including the lovely Pamela Reed, who portrayed Detective Stacy, the stern yet compassionate teacher who slowly warms up to Detective Kimble's unique approach to law enforcement. Her performance as a single mother trying to balance her career and raising her son is so relatable and touching. And then there's the adorable little boy who played Detective Kimble's son in the film, who later grows up to be a successful musician in real life. The chemistry between all these actors and their characters really makes Kindergarten Cop a timeless classic. Don't you agree?
Oh, Tom, you've brought up an excellent topic for our discussion today. Kindergarten Cop has indeed left a lasting impression on the world of cinema and television. It's hard to count how many shows and movies have been influenced by this 1990 gem. From its iconic lines like, "It's not a tumor," and "I'll be back, fellas," to Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic police officer character, Detective Kimble. The film has spawned countless imitations and homages over the years. One such example is the popular cartoon series, The Simpsons. In a memorable episode titled Bart the Fake, Bart Simpson attempts to impersonate an injured kindergarten teacher named Miss Johnson. The plot, although exaggerated for comedic effect, echoes several iconic scenes from Kindergarten Cop, including the famous potty training scene and even Arnold Schwarzenegger's signature line mentioned earlier. Another notable TV show that has borrowed heavily from Kindergarten Cop is The Middle. In this popular sitcom, character Sue Heck, played by actress-comedian Emmy Award winner for Outstanding Lead Actress in AM, a comedy series, portrays an unsuccessful and perpetual student who works as a kindergarten teacher's assistant. The show often pokes fun at the absurdities of teaching young children, such as teaching them how to tie their shoelaces upside down or explaining the concept of kid stuff as anything small enough to fit into a baby's mouth. And let's not forget about the countless action comedy movies that have taken inspiration from Kindergarten Cop, including films like 1997's Daddy Daycare, starring Eddie Murphy, and AIM 2005's The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, directed by the legendary fantasy filmmaker Robert Rodriguez. These films all share a common theme of an unlikely hero entering the world of kindergarten or daycare to uncover some sinister plot, often involving incompetent adults and adorable children. In conclusion, Kindergarten Cop's enduring appeal can be attributed to its clever blend of action, comedy, and heartwarming moments of human connection. It's no wonder that it continues to inspire artists and storytellers alike, proving once again that sometimes the simplest premises can yield the most memorable entertainment.
Oh, Timothy, you always have a way with words. And speaking of memorable entertainment, do you remember that one time we were discussing Lost and how they used a similar plot twist in season 6? You know, the episode where... Never mind, let's not go down that rabbit hole again. But seriously though, it's true that Kindergarten Cop has left an indelible mark on pop culture. From its iconic lines and scenes to its portrayal of a tough as nails. Cop learning the value of empathy and understanding. It's no wonder that it's become a classic in its own right. And let's not forget about the film's impact on fashion, particularly Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic Detective Kimble look. A tight-fitting white t-shirt, darker colored pants, and a bulletproof vest. This style has been imitated by countless men alike, proving that sometimes the most unlikely of fashion choices can become iconic over time. So in conclusion, Kindergarten Cop is not just a funny cop movie with adorable children. It's a cultural phenomenon that has transcended generations and continues to inspire artists and storytellers alike. So let's raise our hands if you agree that this film will forever remain a timeless classic, eh, Timothy?
Well, Tom, we've certainly had a riotous time dissecting Kindergarten Cop, haven't we? From Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic portrayal of Detective Kimble to the film's enduring impact on pop culture, it's clear why this classic action comedy continues to resonate with audiences decades after its release, despite our occasional disagreements. We both agree that Kindergarten Cop is a true masterpiece that combines laughter and heartwarming moments of human connection seamlessly. So, in conclusion, if you haven't seen Kindergarten Cop yet, what are you waiting for? Go watch it now.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button below to
join our ever-growing community of kindergartners turned film enthusiasts. Until next time, farewell, my little kindergarten copsters.
Oh, Timothy, you always know how to end a podcast on a high note. And speaking of high notes, did you catch the clever pun I sneaked in earlier? Anyway, before we sign off for today, we'd love to hear your thoughts on Kindergarten Cop and its lasting impact on cinema. So don't be shy, leave us a comment below, let's start a discussion. And remember, sharing is caring, so share this video with your friends and family who might also enjoy our unique take on film. Until next time, farewell, Kindergarten Cop lovers.